That's the problem.
So we can get started. I think it's about time. People tend to get in as we are talking, so that's no problem. So I would like to welcome you all to the final session of this 5-session series that we put together with Oxbridge Angels, with Oxbridge Capital Partners, with Genesis Ventures, with Cambridge University. All the presenters we have had so far, it's been a privilege. And we're very sure that we are closing on top with the panelists we got today. We got founders, we got Engie Factory, we got people from Cambridge also participating. So all the lessons learned are gonna be on these sessions. So we hope that this conversation is very practical. So after we're done, you are able to implement all the ideas, all this experience accumulated in your own reality. So welcome you all. Andres, can you help me out? Move to the next presentation. This is number 5. It's going to be recorded. We're going to share it with everyone in the audience, so that's no problem. It's a matter of sending an email. In the button, you can see the email address that you can request the PowerPoints, the presentation, and all that. I also would like to invite everyone who would like to update their knowledge to the executive education programs that Cambridge has on their website. It's very diverse in different subjects, different industries. So all the information is on the official link to the Judge Business School at Cambridge. As always, this is just a reminder. This is a practical conversation. All the Q&As are more than welcome at the end of the session. Steve Lyle, he is going to be the one funneling all the information, reading them out loud. So Steve, thank you in advance for that. If we're not able to cover all the questions, send them over the email. We can reply to them after the conversation. All the microphones should be off at this stage. And of course, use the chat box, and Steve is going to be replying at the same time. That's no problem. Andres, please, if you can continue. I'm going to be your host. I tried to make this very dynamic. I'm Cambridge Business Association Director here in Latin America. I'm part of Oxbridge Capital Partners, trying to find deals that are interesting and are able to grow beyond LATAM. And also invite people from abroad, like Perfect Company, to come here to Chile or LATAM to expand their services. This is the very interesting and diverse agenda. We're going to start with Andres Bayer from Engie. He's the investment director here for LATAM. Then we're going to have Steve Lyle from Oxbridge Capital Partners and representing the Angels too, the Angel side. Then we're going to have Ricard, who's going to walk us through the due diligence process, what they looked at in order to invest. And we also have the privilege of having Lucy from Charco Tech, who is one of the investees. I don't know if that's the word. Sorry for my vocabulary. She was the one who received part of this investment from Oxbridge Angels. And then all the lessons learned are more than welcome. We got also to close Michael Wallace from Perfect Company. They are based in the US and they are expanding very rapidly. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be quite interesting, quite a journey. Before we get started, I like to acknowledge all the institutions that help us out to put this together. We got eClass, which is the manager's platform to update their knowledge in different subjects. It's online education here for Latin America. Renaissance Executive Forum, the place to grow, learn, and share for CEOs and founders in a secure environment so you can learn from their own experiences and grow as a leader. Hacienda Santa Martina, which is a nature club where all the Cambridge Business Association community can go and relax. So if you have more requests or you need more information, send us an email. And of course, Oxbridge Angels, who are here today. Let's dive right in to the first panelist we got. He's Andres, as I said at the beginning. He's the investment director for Engie Factory. He's a lawyer. He's kind of related with us. We're from Cambridge, but he is an Oxford guy. He has been there. He's part of the community of Oxbridge, if you want. He's very savvy in venture capital, and he has a mission, or he's on a mission, to boost green tech across LATAM. So he has quite an interesting story to tell us. He's going to walk us through what Engie is looking at today and so forth. So Andres, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here today. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Suad. Thanks, Oxbridge Capital Partners for the opportunity. Thanks to the Genesis tribe as well. Thanks, everyone. Great to meet you. What we'll be touching on for a few minutes, just a brief presentation of our work at Engie Factory, and especially where is the opportunity in terms of green tech and green tech entrepreneurs in Latin America. As a brief introduction, this is where my career started, metallurgical coal. I worked for 8 years in the mining sector in Australia, with work related to mining tech, also a lot of work working with suppliers and providers. Life in Australia was amazing. I had my Australian passport, had learned how to surf, but at a certain point was feeling a bit off track, lacking some sense of purpose. So had the idea, and luckily was able to redirect my experience into the entrepreneurship sector with a strong focus in venture capital. And this is where I started my chapter at Oxford Uni, did my MBA there with a focus on these areas, energy and resources linked to entrepreneurship, and with a strong focus in impact investing. And this has led me on to back to Latin America, after being 9 years overseas and working in the energy sector now, and energy and let's call it green tech or clean tech for this purpose. And when we speak about green technologies or energy tech, this is what most of us think of, so renewables. And renewables have a key role to play. Some of you are aware, by 2035, we're expecting 50% of all of the matrix to be coming from renewable energy. But the space for clean tech, and now that's why I refer to green tech now, is way broader nowadays. So now we are referring to water-related tech, circular economy, energy storage, energy efficiency, and all technologies that are related to having a positive impact on the environment. So Engie, that's where I am at now. In a nutshell, if you haven't heard of Engie, it's one of the largest utility and energy companies globally. It's in more than 50 countries with its headquarters in France. We have a large operation in the UK. These are just some numbers for a snapshot. This is from 2018, but more than 60 billion in revenues, with a diversified matrix of energy generation, and is also in the transmission and distribution space. And what's important for this presentation is that there's a strong commitment in the innovation side, not only in terms of research and development, but on venture capital and working with entrepreneurs to accelerate this energy transition into zero carbon, which is our mission as Engie and as Engie Factory. So how does it work? We have a main global corporate venture capital arm. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end on corporate venture capital, which is Engie New Ventures, based in Paris, with a team spread around the globe. We have a team in the US, Singapore, Israel, and one here in LATAM, where we run what's called the Engie Factory. So we are part of this global team, but have a specific, more focused fund for LATAM, especially looking at Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Chile, and Argentina, which is where business unit is operating. Brazil, as usual, has its own business unit. We collaborate with them, but they're a different chapter. And some numbers as a reference: Engie New Ventures, we're a team of 17 members. The fund for Engie New Ventures is at 180 million euro, with 25 investments to date. And the branch for LATAM, we have myself running LATAM as an investment director. I have a country manager in Mexico as well. And our fund is at the 20 million mark with 15 investments from 2017. As you can see, obviously our ticket size is substantially smaller than what Engie New Venture usually invests. Their tickets are from 3 to 5 million. As Engie Factory, we're on the average ticket size of 1 million. These are the areas we're looking at. And this is especially relevant for LATAM. So the investment thesis of Engie New Ventures, it's way broader. We can touch on it afterwards. But in the case of LATAM, this is where we're seeing most of the opportunities in technologies related to renewable energy. Smart cities is huge. And we've seen a surge in deal flow in the smart city space. Digitalization, which covers also productivity software, B2B, software as a service, and other support technologies for the energy industry, and energy efficiency, which is key and ultimately the best source of energy, or the best energy is the energy we do not use. Our thesis, in simple terms at the bottom, our average ticket size, I mentioned, $1 million. And these are the two key factors of what we're looking at. Traction. So we started investing in very early stage startups, even as a company builder. Now we're moving on to startups that have further traction. Why is that? Because we want startups that can be deployed quickly in different operations of Engie. And it's proven to be harder when startups are at an earlier stage. And secondly, and most importantly, fit. So once we have all standard VC kind of criteria, the standard VC criteria covered, we're talking about team, technology, good timing, and traction. We also need these startups to have a strong fit with the group. So that's commercial collaborations or a new market we're exploring. And that makes it, let's call it more challenging to place investments. So as Engie Factory, we are looking at 1 to 2 investments per year, and Engie New Ventures is placing around 4 to 5 annually. I'll move on to just a few business cases and startups we've invested in, and tell you a couple of stories. What you see there, of course, a solar panel. You can easily notice the amount of dirt on the panel. It's called soiling. It's the key factor for lack of productivity in solar panels. And we were approached by a startup based here in Chile, which had a solution to the problem. Their name is Untitled. They designed this robot. It's a robot with a brush. It's quite simple. And it operates automatically with no use of water. So it allows for no use of water, which is especially relevant because most of the utility scale plants from 1 gigawatt and above are based or will be based in highly desertic areas. So it doesn't use water, it's automatic, and it increases then. It saves costs on the operation and increases yield, which allows for the construction of more plants due to the increased productivity. Another example of our portfolio, Tuten Labs. This startup, it's based on it's a productivity software for mobile workforce management. So as you're aware, a large portion of the workforce does not work on a desk. We have maintenance fleets, sales, inspectors that need to be on the ground. This software is geared towards optimization of these work fleets. Tuten Labs, just to give you some numbers, it's close to the 4 million in annual recurring revenues and seeking now their Series B round for 10 million, which we're working on. Another environmental challenge is energy efficiency. So in a lot of cases, we're using electricity in operations where it's not needed. When work, maybe you have heard of it during the presentations. We have co-invested in this startup with the Genesis tribe. Their solution, an IoT device that allows for tracking of electricity consumption on critical assets of an operation, and therefore giving us insights through a dashboard and allowing us for reduction of energy use. And lastly, another example is a picture from Mexico City. As you can see, heavy air pollution. One of our startups, 99 Minutes. It's a last mile delivery solution based on a green fleet. So only the use of electric vehicles. In exceptional cases, if they can't use an electric vehicle, they are doing a carbon offset. And 99 Minutes just left the Y Combinator. They raised a post-seed round of 4 million quite quickly. And now we'll also be looking at their Series B for 10 million early in 2021. This is a snapshot of the portfolio, some of the companies I mentioned, but it's just to show you we're investing in a wide range of entrepreneurs from renewable tech, Denda, it's a e-commerce for sustainable products, Simplicity, distributed energy. And below is the Mexico managed portfolio. We have from electric scooters to charging solutions such as Auhaus. We have also worked as an LP. So we have invested in another fund in Chile called the Clean Fund from Chile Global Ventures. That's another micro fund of 20 million with a similar thesis. Also a strong focus on renewables. They are investing in a lot of mining tech as well, which is a huge opportunity. I can expand on that later. We've had one exit so far, MooSmart, that was also last mile delivery. We'll be expecting further exits and initial large exits next year. And we've had 2 write-offs, unfortunately. So to end here, we're seeing a lot of opportunity in terms of superheroes, that's the green tech entrepreneurs. There's been a surge on deal flow in LATAM. Of course, it's not as, it doesn't have the volume of the deal flow we see in Europe or the US in this space, but we are seeing more opportunities, and especially there's a huge opportunity in the industrial tech and B2B productivity side. So that's the end of the presentation and the invitation to join us in leading the zero carbon transition. If you have any questions, you want to reach out and to discuss anything related to corporate venture capital or green tech, there's my email. You can add me also on LinkedIn. And yeah, happy to address any questions.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Andres. I'm sure that the audience has questions. I don't know, Steve, if you would like to ask some, or we'll leave it till the end, because I know that Andres is very busy, so I don't want to keep him here for till the end.
Yeah.
If you want, Andres, that'd be great. Because Steve is
just stay.
Yeah, no, I think what Engie is doing is really, really interesting. And so my interest is always going to be, what's the plan to scale your companies outside of Latin, into Europe, United Kingdom, and the rest of the world. And by the way, I love it that you're seeking syndication and that you even occasionally invest as an LP, and that's something that's going to be, of course, very interesting to us, and reciprocal to return that. But so what's the plan to scale these companies outside of Latin to the rest of the world?
Yeah, it's a good question. The strategy is twofold. On one side, our plan is to boost their growth via sales and use Engie as a distribution channel. That's key for us, and that's in highly our value added to the startups, that we can add their sales. In the case of Tutem, for example, which I mentioned, they are operating in now Colombia, Mexico, Chile, and Singapore with Engie. and approximately 30% of their sales come from Engie. So we want to encourage that model and help their growth, their commercial growth with Engie. That's one. And secondly, we do place a strong focus, let's call it, on co-investments, especially with other CVCs, which is a lot of people find it strange. But we do want our startups to share cap tables with Engie and with other corporates with which we have a good relationship, such as National Grid Partners, BP Ventures, Fortum, the list goes on. And via these co-investments, boost their international growth as well.
Cool. Do you mind throwing some CVC names out there, just kind of a sampling of the CVCs that are really interested in working with this sector?
In LATAM or globally?
Yeah. Well, LATAM and as you see globally, because I'm sure you're connecting to both. So. Yeah.
Well, in LATAM, we don't have that many players yet. The key ones starting from Chile, we have Huayra. They're from Telefónica. They've been running their CVC practice for quite some time. Other big players here, Consorcio in Neurotech in Chile. And looking at LATAM, some of the biggest ones are Cemex Ventures, that's a construction industry, IPF, they're also in the energy space, EPM, one of the largest utilities players in Colombia. And the list goes on. We're seeing substantially more interest in the corporate venture capital side in LATAM, with more specific associations being formed as well. And globally, well, Google Ventures, of course, I believe they have 3 different funds now. And they are the ones, I'm between Google or Intel, some of the biggest players in terms of amounts of investments. And yeah, well, our relationship is mainly with the Shell Ventures, BP, Chevron Ventures. Pretty much all large corporations have now their VC arm.
Okay, cool. So hey, Rodrigo Castro, one of our partners, and also been one of the professors for these sessions. He's asking, is there anything in your portfolio on the financing for consumer power generation side? And then, for example, it's the way consumer solar startups like in Africa have used solar panel asset to collect payments over time and then build consumer credit. Is this something that can work in Latin America or are there other challenges there?
It's a good question. Yeah, that model, Engie has invested through another fund called Ressemblers d'Energie, and they placed a lot of investments in Africa. In that model, where you see companies like Mcopa, which are quite popular in the solar distributed, where people can just replace their consumption of energy with a solar panel, which they pay in installments. The model works in Latin America. There's a company called Ilu Mexico that has a very similar model. They're quite successful. We don't have it in the portfolio with Engie Factory because it's hard to make the link and the commercial collaboration with Engie with that sort of model. But it doesn't mean that we don't believe in the model or those kind of startups. We see with Engie Factory a lot of opportunities in smart cities, in electromobility, where the startup has all the potential, but we have a challenge in identifying fit with Engie.
Cool. So we might get some more questions toward the end. That's no worries, and we'll catch you up later, Andres. I'm gonna pick it up from here, and we'll transition into. I'm just gonna get my screen share going here. Make sure I've got the right thing. There we go. And just to make sure that everybody can see my screen, could I see thumbs up in some of the video? Very good. This is it. The culmination of a journey that goes back almost 2 years now, and launched out of Cambridge Judge Business School. What you're seeing is essentially the same presentation that we showed to corporate venture capital firms. We were trying to, believe it or not, introduce them into Oxford and Cambridge universities because they've had a hard time getting into there. And a lot of people don't realize that Oxford and Cambridge have the same colors. You know, one's dark blue, one's light blue. It's hilarious going to the football games and the rugby games. Go blue, go light blue, go dark blue. It sounds like stupid. You know, it's not something we would do in the United States anyways. So our positioning statement's always been about the CVCs and sovereign wealth investors and how we could, you know, demonstrate to them that there's something special going on in the golden triangle that we call London, which, you know, Cambridge, Oxford, the general London area, Imperial College. You know, Lucy's here; she's from Imperial College. We have brilliant people coming out of there. And of course, the Oxford's legacy is legend, right? You know, Isaac Newton, Stephen Hawking. It goes on and on. The first computer, you know, was invented there. Just to kind of give you a sense. We have 200 Nobel laureates between us. So that's not too shabby, but to give you a sense that that legacy is really current, there are 55 current Nobel laureates on these campuses mentoring the next generation of global disruptive innovators. But to give you a sense of what, you know, this is kind of the architecture of the venture engine that we built. You know, on the right side, we have Oxbridge Capital Partners, which is co-branded with the Angel Fund. And that's everything that's going to be scale up institutional financing, A round and beyond. And we'll actually swim upstream a little bit more, even investing in our own angel fund partner, Oxbridge Angels, into their general fund. But the left side is what got very interesting to corporate venture capital firms that were looking to try to find a way to access. And they saw that you know, we had built this angel fund. The first cohort this year was launched out of the 2016 MBA cohort. And you know, we have 4 practicing physicians to kind of give you a sense of the cross-sector expertise. Executive MBAs are a different type of breed, and we didn't know that this was going to be that special to corporate venture capital firms. But what they saw is you have people with 10 to 30 years experience that can surround startups, like Lucy, for instance, here, Lucy Yoon with Charco Neurotech, not just giving them financial capital, but giving them human capital, helping them along the journey, and to reduce the risk of failure moving forward to get through these milestones. Human capital is where startups tend to fail. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and my first startup I did with Mike Wallace and Miriam Kim, and we can both tell you, they're here tonight. I hate to say it, but they're old veterans of startup, but they'll be the first to tell you most of the failure that's happened that we've experienced is because of the wrong people. It's just had the wrong people, and we wasted a lot of money on the wrong people too. People is very important. So we always stress the human capital with financial capital. But here's to give you a sense of what the factory looks like. It's like a greenhouse, or you launch little seedlings. A lot of them don't live, but we're there to help nurture and cultivate so they can survive and get out and enjoy an A round, which is, you know, the purview and the remit of Oxbridge Capital Partners, a scale-up VC. And of course, the angel funds looking to build syndication partnerships with, this is what the ecosystem looks like. And our folks, some of them are investors in those other funds. And so they can discover deal flow there, and some of it becomes direct deal flow access to the VC. Then of course, Oxbridge Capital Partners is building syndication relationships with the UK marketplace. Well, why would we do such a thing? Well, this is what the market looks like in the United Kingdom. And by the way, it looks this way in Europe, and similarly so in the United States, but it's much more pronounced. It's called the Valley of Death, and it's what happens. We know, anybody that's done a startup knows that your reward for being successful is you get to die, because nobody wants to give you an A round. You go through these early stage financings and you're ready for A round money, you know, and it's tough to get that capital because a lot of the VCs are lined up at B round, C round. When you're de-risked, you know, you have like a 3 to 5 years EBITDA, and then they want to invest. So that creates this valley of death, and a lot of these companies have to sell short, sell their IP out. And so we thought we should populate this whole continuum, you know, cradle to grave. We should populate that. And so you see the remits of both sides. You know, on the left, you have Oxbridge Angels, on the right, you know, in the early stage, you know, you have Oxbridge Angels. On the right, you have Oxbridge Capital Partners. And, you know, at Oxbridge Angels will see somebody with a PowerPoint presentation. All they have is a PowerPoint presentation. They just need some capital to maybe develop a prototype, and they don't need a lot of capital. But we see this a lot with scientists, computer scientists, deep technologists, people that are postdocs. They may have already done that, and they're looking to develop the IP, file patents, and do all of that. And then ultimately they want to create a product, get it out into the marketplace. That takes more capital. So you see, we invest through all those stages. Our intent is if we discover somebody like a Lucy, she's bootstrapped herself all the way up to like product launch, right? That's cool when we see that, and we love that in founders. But it doesn't matter. She would have come to us in the early stage with a PowerPoint presentation. She's the kind of class act founder that we would invest in as early as possible and walk through this journey. We intend to invest all the way through. And then ultimately, after product launch, the market says, we like your stuff, bring it on. They're going to need more capital to, kind of do what you like trial launch, start generating some revenues. And then the market shouts, we really want your stuff. And that's when it gets very expensive. And that's when you're starting to see, you see, 4 to 10, 11, 12 million dollar A rounds. And that becomes in the purview, of the VC. And you see this handoff between Oxbridge Angels and Oxbridge Capital Partners. And I'll give you a sense of what the deal flow cycle looks like. We see it as like 5 stages. And of course, the first stage is really just, where we have our network, right? And there's a network effect of people out in the marketplace. This is what this engine looks like. And the biggest cog is actually people. And those are real LinkedIn profiles that generate the early stage and ultimately leads to the later stage. As I said, the first cohort's 80 plus people, and eventually growing that year over year. And that network effect includes, a cross section of sector specialists. We have so many sectors that we cover, and I'll show you, but they have their own discovery, their own organic journey. They might be sitting in business class and somebody says, hey, I've invested in this startup. Really? Tell me about it. Or they're sitting in coach, next to a founder going, I'm starting this company, and well, I invest in companies. And so this is how discovery happens. And they could be going to a trade show. They could be, it could just be in the workplace. So I'll give you an example to make it real. Our corporate venture capital firms have asked us, make this real for us. So let me give you an example of what a biotech discovery would look like. They'll blow up the cog and make it big, and let's bring out a real person called Hitesh Sangani. Hitesh is one of our investors. He was in our cohort, dear friend, Oxford PhD in chemistry, but he heads up innovation at the AstraZeneca. So, he's what we would call an influencer. And so in his own organic journey, he will have a discovery. As a mentor at the Baber Research Campus, he'll see things there. This is an example of something that really happened, a biotech startup. He discovers it. Now he has a few options here. He said, I like to invest in this, but instead of investing, he might want to de-risk from himself and say, I might want to take this over to my friends that are better in business model. And I don't do biz dev. I just know science. This is what I know. And so he recommends it to de-risk himself. And other people will bring their own time and money. And this is where the due diligence process starts. And so as anybody knows, and Lucy's on her first journey as a startup entrepreneur, she knows that it's very difficult to even get an audience to get money. So 97.5%, according to Gus statistics, never even get into the greenhouse. They don't even get a chance to pitch to the investment committee. That's how hard it is. But those that do, and those that get green lighted get to enjoy the early stages of seed financing, as I've shown you before. And that becomes a new funneling process, 2 to 3 rounds of financing. And as you see this, they'll go through early stages, but even then we have high morbidity. 50% will die before the end of this process, right? And that's how it goes. But we believe at Oxbridge Angels that by surrounding people like Lucy with quality people, trustworthy people with unique skill sets, born out of 10 to 30 years of work experience, will enhance the success and reduce the risk of failure. Not just the money, it's the people that matters. And now, if you get through this process, you're ready to do an A round. We think we think Charco Neurotech is an example of a company that's going to be ready for an A round. We think that they will get there, and that's why we've invested in them. And Lucy and Ricard Marti are going to be able to talk about that pretty soon. And so after this, you're ready for scale up. All right, and this is where the baton handoff happens. Oxford Capital Partners takes over from Oxbridge Angels. We're still working with them in a very integrated way, and we have A round, B round, C round, and hopefully an exit happens somewhere around there, right? So let's take a look at how that would work. Now the VC's taken over this little biotech, all right? And we're looking at syndication. Let's see if we can bring on a corporate venture capital firm that would also want to be involved. So we take the little company, scale it up. And in the scale up process, Oxford Capital Partners could be a lead, or we could take it to one of our syndicated partners and say, why don't you lead? We curated this for you. We de-risked it for you. You can come in and we'll be your sidecar. We don't really actually need to lead, but in this scenario, this example, and by the way, this is given like a $9 million round. So what you see here are 30 corporate venture capital firms. These are not just pretend labels or logos. Rashid Zubri and I, before we launched Oxbridge Capital Partners together with 80 of our friends, we actually talked to the market. We had like 1 hour pitches to all of these people and said, hey, if we build this, would you come? And we got 100% response. We will come. We will be a syndication partner, or we'll invest as an LP in your general fund. Wow, that's the market shouting at you. And we went back, shared that with our friends. And so now we can curate this list, for which of these CVCs would invest in a biotech company. The reason why is because they told us. They said, this is what we like, this is what we don't like. So we curate the list. And of course, off this hypothetical scenario here, we picked Bosch as a CVC co-investor. Well, why is that important to a startup? Well, Bosch could be the acquirer. This could be your exit. And a lot of times a strategic investment, or just a flat out balance sheet investment, it becomes a segue to a merger acquisition. And so that's what I'm saying. We're putting tracks down to help these companies get an exit. Then the next thing we do is we kind of survey the local marketplace for another VC, a friendly VC that would like this space. And anybody that knows about Cambridge Innovation Capital, their expertise is medtech, medical, bioscience, and so they would be a natural syndication partner. This kind of gives you a sense of what our focus is from sector standpoint. These are defined very differently by all VCs, but generally speaking, when you're coming out of Oxford, Cambridge, and even including Imperial, you're thinking science is deep tech, technology, and biomed, and we're already plugging a lot of those holes. This is what our current pipeline looks like. Lucy and Mike, you're in there somewhere. And so corporate venture capital firms ask us, hey, make this even more real. How do your current people match up? How could they help us with their sector expertise? If you invest in a Lucy and you want us to invest in Lucy, how are they going to de-risk Lucy's enterprise for us? And so we basically aligned all our current cohort by sector, and you could see some of these they're in more than one spot, but this is what it looks like. All right. Took me a long time to make this, so I want you guys to all silently applaud. So, what we love about, thanks, Lucy. What we love about about what we built is the diversity and the inclusion. It happened organically. We didn't set out to do this. It just happened that the most qualified person to chair our committee is Yasreed Inaya, who, people will say you're smart, you must be a rocket scientist, but she actually is a rocket scientist for Inmarsat and sends satellites into space. But she sat on their investment committee. She's been very active with Innovate UK. You see all these people here are just a representative of a cohort of cross-sector specialists, and all been very active. And Lucy has actually had a chance to interface with a number of these people. She knows them by name. Then we have the Latin America story, thanks to Guillermo Ramirez. Guillermo started pestering me really early on, said, you need to come to Chile, you need to come to Chile. Why do I want to go to Chile? It's all the way down to Antarctica, And then, the rest of the story happened, and we started thinking about, well, how can we scale to Latin America? and how can we, inject the best IP coming out of Oxford and Cambridge, into Latin America and scaling to all the countries. I know, Mike Walsh, you love this graphic and wish you had made it, but you didn't. I did. And so then we want to reverse those arrows. And how can we be a resource to all the countries in Latin America to take them out to the rest of the world? And with Santiago being kind of the node for these other Latin American countries, we can bring tech transfer, merger acquisition, strategic investment through our array of CVCs that we've built, and then broadcast it out to the rest of the world. And this is how you get exits. And this is how we really create a global phenomenon. And the rest was history. Met with Corfo. We were introduced to the wonderful people at Genesis Ventures, and we created Team Genox, which is a Frankenstein's monster mashup of Genesis Ventures and Oxbridge Capital Partners. And they've been wonderful folks. Two of them have been professors in this session, and I know you all come to appreciate Rodrigo and Andres. With Guillermo also being down there on the OCP side. But you know what else? We are now 28 million strong. That's dry powder, folks. That's not pretend money, real money. And we intend to grow that to over 100 million in the next 2 to 3 years. We're very, very excited, and we're making our first investments, which is a segue to our next guests. I want to introduce one of the leads on our investment committee, Ricard Marti, who headed up our due diligence effort in our investment with Charco Neurotech, one of our fabulous founders, and I call her a Xena warrior princess founder, and she's going to be a great leader for other founders, and we're really proud of Lucy Young. And I'm going to turn the keys over to Ricard. And after Ricard's done, I'm going to introduce you to our first VC investment that's getting ready to close with Perfect Company to give you a sense of the global nature. And that's a $6 million investment. But so Ricard, if you're there, and Lucy, I'm going to turn the keys over to you and let you drive. I'm going to stop sharing. There you go.
Thank you for the fantastic.
By the way, before that, I guess I had to do a Q&A, right? Sorry about that.
Okay.
I have to put my Q&A hat. You stay there. You stay there. If there's any questions, I can take them now or take them later.
I'm checking here the chat box, and we don't have any regarding your presentation.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure
All right. Let's save it.
The end.
We'll save it to the end because really Ricard and Michael are part of our extended presentation. So jump right in, Ricard, and take over.
Again, thank you so much for the amazing presentation, Steve. And thank you, Guillermo, for having me. Well, I'm Ricard. I'm part of the investment committee in the Oxbridge Angels and due diligence lead for the Charco Neurotech. In my professional career, I'm an expert in technology, finance, and economics. However, my passion is venture capital. Before I start, I would like to apologize as I will be restating some of the information that Steve has mentioned. And the purpose why is because it is very important for me to show you how the background of the Oxbridge Angels has an impact on how we do our due diligence process. I would talk about the due diligence process, the standard, as I know the standard, and our own Oxbridge Angels process. Then I will talk with Lucy, the CEO of Charco Neurotech, who is joining us. Okay. And finally, we will discuss the questions raised after the due diligence process is done. So who we are, right? So we are an early stage angel fund funded by 80 Cambridge executives and other investors. We focus on the deep tech and life sciences. The fund was registered in February 2020. So our core principles are that we understand entrepreneurs because we are and we have been entrepreneurs. We are empathetic, we are genuine and honest, and we have expertise. We are experts in our fields, and we have an extensive network of contacts around the world. Someone told me the other day that we are kind of like what some people call smart money, and I had to Google that. But in essence, it means that we are knowledgeable people collectively that can invest money wisely. And I think it's quite a good definition of who we are. I wanted to show you in a snapshot who we are. So you see we are 80 people with a minimum of 10 years experience in their industry and with a wide range of backgrounds. You can see the donut that is each of the courses for one sector. You can see it goes from pharma, public sector, technology, financial services, investment banking, and so on. I don't know any other angel fund with this kind of background. So I think it's very difficult to replicate this that we have with the Oxbridge Angels. In terms of the due diligence, by the way, I'm going to be using some charts in the next slides for consistency purposes that were used from the Genesis guys in the first session of these Latin America webinars. So I would like to quickly talk about the pre-due diligence process. So as we can see on the chart, everything starts with a first meeting where we know or we meet the startup or the entrepreneur, and then it goes on up to the closing of the terms and conditions for the investment. When we first met the entrepreneur, we ask always the basic question. So what is your objective? What is the product or the service that you have? Which are the benefits of having your product or service? Who is your customer? Why will your customer pay for what you're willing to sell? Right? How will you reach your customers? How many customers are there? Who are your competitors? Who is your team? Who do you need investment for? How are they going to use the investment that we are going to give you? What is the business model that you have? And what is your exit strategy? So with those answers to these questions, the fund has an approximate idea of the possibilities of an investment on the startup. So as it was raised on the first session as well of this series, what the standard due diligence process aims to enable investment decision, determine the valuation of the company, and identify the contingencies. So the standard process, as I know it, normally focuses on three areas. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen. So opportunity, business model, and team. Normally, the standard of the industry is that there are these three diligence teams, and normally between 1 or 2 experts, maybe 3 experts in finance, marketing, and technology deal with the whole range of sections or portions of the startup. Teams do not always have expertise on the main field of their startup, and that is a key point for us, for Oxbridge Angels. The process normally lasts around 30 to 60 days. On the contrary, in our instance, we have a team for most of the processes within the startup. So you can see on the right-hand side, this was more or less the structure that we follow for Charco Neurotech's due diligence process. So we have experts in each field. We have an immediate network for support in getting more information. Our process lasts no more than 30 days. And we have the figure of the champion, which is something that Steve introduced to the Oxbridge Angels due diligence process. This role is within the due diligence process, helps or facilitates the entrepreneur with focus and helps to manage the process from their side. We will go with more details on this Charco case later on. So one of the companies that has endured our process is Charco Neurotech. So Charco specializes in non-invasive devices that help Parkinson patients with their symptoms. And I would like to bring her CEO, Lucy, to the stage so we can talk about her company.
Sure. Hello. Thank you so much, Ricardo and Steve. Can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Awesome. Hello, my name is Lucy, founder and CEO of Charco Neurotech. Charco developed a focused vibrotactile stimulation device to improve quality of life for people with Parkinson's, as Ricardo mentioned. Parkinson's is currently the fastest growing neurodegenerative condition that affects 10 million people around the world. So while we were talking, there was already 2 people who's diagnosed with Parkinson's. And they struggle from movement symptoms, which limits their daily activities, taking medications on time. And also because it's not a measurable condition, it's really difficult to track their symptoms, where they have to update their clinicians in 6 to 12 months. So Q1 device combines clinically investigated focused stimulation and cueing phenomena to improve movement for people with Parkinson's. Give medication alert, and also we're developing an application to track the symptoms of Parkinson's through movement games that they have. So I'm just going to show you the device that I've got over here. If you can just pay attention to the screen for a second. So device sits on the docking, which is also a charger. It's lifted so that it's easy for people with Parkinson's to grab. The adhesive sits on the bottom of the device. So there's adhesive which goes on the sternum. I'm not actually wearing it today, but it's basically putting it on the device, operate it when they need it, when their symptoms are kicking in. So we're currently focusing on the production specification, regulations, and CE medical device certifications to move forward with launching in early 2021. We aim to reach out to as many people with Parkinson's as possible through B2C and B2B2C channels, creating relationship with charities and communicating with the communities are really key point for us at the moment. Our team combines skills of product development, data scientist, medical doctor, neuroscientist, and more, lots of scientists in the team. We are guided with clinical advisors and business coaches, and we are part of CJBS Entrepreneur Center. Like everyone have the same vision of using simple technology to make a big impact. The technology basically are mostly validated in clinic settings already. So we're currently focusing on improving quality life for people with Parkinson's, but the potential of the technology is actually for lots of neurodegenerative conditions. So we will be expanding quickly. And once we launch in EU and UK, we're really hoping to spread out to the global market as quick as possible. So that's kind of a snapshot of who Charco is.
Thank you so much, Lucy. So as I mentioned, Charco Neurotech went through the due diligence process. And I would like to give you a quick view on the specifics of this process. So there were 13 teams which fall into either product company or admin categories, as you can see on the screenshot. Each of the teams had a lead who was an expert on some additional Oxbridge Angels members who wanted to learn from that particular area and hence be the lead in subsequent processes. So I would like to share with you a quick example of the immediate network for support and getting more information that we have in Oxbridge Angels. So for the clinical trials, we need information about clinical trials. I come from a completely different industry, different background. And it was extremely easy to reach out for people with expertise. Lucy was planning to perform one, and so we set a meeting with Lucy and Alex, Maddie, and Mas. So these experts are, for instance, Alex. You can find Alex is a director, was a director of pathology for Charles River and AstraZeneca. You have Maddie, he's an ophthalmology surgeon and knowledgeable about clinical trials. And we have Moose, Director of Clinical Program Operation for Lilly, and previously Clinical Operations Director for AstraZeneca. So that shows how easy it is for us to find the links and the network to get more information, and the risk, obviously, the process. Our process, as I was mentioning before, it lasts not more than 30 days. You can see here the practical example that we created for Charco. In essence, is bi-weekly sessions with Charco, with around 90 minutes. We had previously sent some questions to Lucy, which she had 24 hours to reply to us if she could. She always did, amazingly. And then we had a catch up on Sundays. We discussed the findings from the week. And also we bind some information from previous weeks. And also, as I was mentioning before with the champion, the lead figure that Steve introduced to the Oxbridge Angels. It's a key figure, which I think it was an important piece for Charco, where in essence, as a due diligence lead, I was a facilitator within the due diligence process, which helps the entrepreneur, Lucy, with focus, helps to manage the process. And this always on the entrepreneur side. Now I would like to share with you all how was the due diligence process with Lucy. I sent yesterday night some 4 questions to Lucy to find some answers and provide some feedback, practical feedback about how was her personal experience and for these questions. And also I'm going to answer those questions from Oxbridge Angels perspective. So if you would like to go first, Lucy.
Yes.
How was the overall process for you?
Yes, of course. So I think, well, it was our kind of first big like due diligence, because obviously like Oxbridge Angels joined us our round really quickly. It was obviously intense process, but I think we really enjoyed it because it was evening. It kind of felt like evening talks, although there were lots of questions. All the questions were like something that we should have all the answers to, in my perspective. So if there were like 70 questions, I don't know if it was 70 questions, but if you were sent like 70 questions, if there are like particular like 1 or 2 questions that we didn't have answer to, it was something that we certainly should have done. So I think it was really, it didn't feel like intense in terms of like it was a stressful kind of environment at all. It was just kind of like friendly, but like getting to learn the business together actually with Oxbridge Angels and Charco team.
Yeah, for me it was as well intense and also very rewarding. The reason why is, for instance, I was arranging all the biweekly meetings plus the meetings on due diligence for Sundays. Plus also I was coordinating the 13 teams, and the amount of information that you can imagine that goes back and forth from the entrepreneur to the teams is great, and making it available for everyone in a timely manner was a challenge. Also, one of the good points that I can tell about the Oxbridge Angels is that the members are very and extremely busy professionals, and understand the implications of a due diligence process in terms of time commitment and effort, and the fact that they understand the process makes everyone to be aligned in the process, makes it easy. So for instance, for you, Lucy, how do you think the process was for me or for the Oxbridge Angels?
Oh, how do we think you
yeah.
Well, like it's actually kind of related to number 3 question, because I was thinking like, why did we kind of felt it was a not a comfortable environment, like really kind of everyone is, you know, being professional about the meetings. I think it was the fact that like 13 people from like, you know, specialists, that obviously everyone is really busy, but the fact that they're spending this much of time, like really trying to study inside out about our business, really felt like that much, like you cared that much. So it wasn't just like, okay, maybe they will make a success, but it was like feeling like you're really doing this due diligence like properly. So we actually really appreciated that. And I don't know if I'm supposed to, but I'm going to answer that 3rd question. That kind of convinced us that Oxbridge does really do this due diligence thoroughly, which we're actually quite happy with.
For me, I thought that when I was the lead and you were the entrepreneur, it was intense for you and quite challenging. And so I'm sure that it was rewarding too, because as you mentioned, all the questions that we raised had a direct impact on the way that you approached some of the matters. For instance, the product, the production, and finance. And in terms of how I think we kind of convinced you that we were the right partners for you, I think it's kind of very in line with what you said. We felt that our expertise was shown in the key areas, which were the product, the manufacturing process, all the contacts that we had for the market in terms of potential clients, the finance, the clinical trials, the market research. Also the network contacts, as I was mentioning with the example, with the clinical trials. I think that showed how much we can use our network to get answers, and not only answers for our due diligence process, but also answers for Lucy in case that she can use that information for her product. And also the commitment that you mentioned in time and effort. I think we show that we are not only passive investors. We care about what we do, and we like to be hold hands with the startup and the entrepreneur when they need us. And I think in summary, that is what builds trust, which is the key component for long-term relationships. That's from my side. And do you have any highlights, Lucy, about the whole process?
Yes, absolutely. So I think like most of the due diligence day, like I think we're like really kind of confident. So because like I'm product person and we do get lots of like business coachings, and so we had lots of things. I do remember there was one day when we were going through finance, which was a little bit more challenging because I think, and that day we were not just looking into like vague projection at all, but because of all of the people from Oxbridge Angels did EMBA, none of our team members are from MBA background, so they went to really deep dive into the financial projection. But what was really exciting was that it never felt like you were kind of challenging us, but rather like Oxbridge actually prepared like amazing like opportunity of this device going out there. So it really felt like a teamwork. So I think that was like highlight for me, like although it was a challenging day. But since then, what we realized is, okay, like what we realized through the Oxbridge Due Diligence is that we have to make the finance more strong. So since then, we've been working a lot on finance projection. So I think that was like highlight. And another thing I actually kind of want to add on is that Oxbridge members are so supportive. So even like a simple things like we post something on LinkedIn or we're going for a competition or anything, and the members like liking or commenting, like supporting us, really does mean a lot for the startups like us. I think that the like lots of people being behind the company, I think is a massive add-on to us. So yeah, that has been like really helpful for us.
That's very nice. Also, I'm going to say to you something very nice too, Lucy. I think as part of my highlights, I think I have to say that our relationship as partnering with the due diligence process, it was really great. And I know that I have to say it, but you are an extremely competent CEO. And I think that one of the best representatives that Charco Neurotech can have. I mean, you are an excellent depiction of how an entrepreneur should work. I know we asked lots of difficult questions, and you managed to provide good answers, and also in a timely manner, which is, again, it goes in line with, we are busy, we are offering you time, and then you respond with an answer in a time manner. For most of us, Oxbridge Angels, we didn't have a previous understanding of the impact of Parkinson. And we now know about the value of Charco's products are so important. And also important how the impact, the social impact that Charco Neurotech's products have. And also, finally, I know that I have been saying lots of good things to you, Lucy, but I think that the fact that you were managing the due diligence process, and you were managing 2 kids and a husband, and while everything on COVID lockdown, I think that kind of gives credit to you and in the commitment that you had for the due diligence process.
Yeah, it's amazing teamwork, I have to say. Like everyone is kind of working together to like make the impact.
So if you have, well, you can contact us anytime that you want. I thank you, Lucy, for her time and being always available for when I have to say something to her. And you can take back the presentation if you want.
Go ahead. Yeah, please. Ricard, thank you, Lucy, as well. Listen, you also asked and answered a lot of the questions that I had teed up, which is fantastic. I wanted to add a question, at least, Lucy, when I'm talking, would you tee up, Lucy's got a little video demo of, I mean, the miraculous response of Charco's technology for people that are suffering with Parkinson's. It's pretty compelling. And this is the kind of stuff I always say, you can't fake execution. This stuff really happens. And she's a miracle worker out there in the marketplace and benefiting people who are genuinely suffering. So go ahead and tee that up. And I'm going to ask a question that Ricard can chime in on, and I think you might be able to as well. The issue has to do with due diligence and the value of it. It's not just us helping you, the founder, be successful. And you can take the screen, Lucy, and tee up your video. It's not just helping Lucy be successful, but Lucy needs to raise money from other people. And Lucy, were we able to share due diligence with outside inquiries that they thought, hey, did somebody else do homework on Lucy? And we can present this cross-sector snapshot with a detailed analysis of her company, risk factors, strengths, SWOT analysis, all of that. Weren't we able to pass it on to Imperial College as well, and some of the others that were looking at you?
Sorry, I was just managing the video.
Or Ricard can answer that. I want to have you talk to this video.
Would you like to see the video first?
Yeah, go ahead, do the video first, and Lucy, just feel to talk over it. It's fine.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm actually going to share the sound. But if you would, yeah,
okay.
is it okay?
Go ahead.
Awesome.
Yeah, as long as it works.
Can you hear everything?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And particularly when we're talking about taking your card out of your wallet, you know, it's the person standing behind you that you can hear tutting. It makes you stressed and anxious, and then it slows you up, and then people get frustrated, so it makes you even more anxious. So I used to love shopping, absolutely used to love shopping, and now I pick my times when I go because I can't do crowds.
At Charco, we have worked closely with the Parkinson's community to develop Q1, a non-invasive wearable device that uses specialized vibration to relieve the movement symptoms of Parkinson's. Worn on the sternum using comfortable medical adhesive, Q1 has been shown to improve the user's movement at the push of a button. Q1 works by delivering two scientifically validated phenomena: cueing and focus stimulation, which together make movement easier and smoother. Q1 is easily recharged with the included dock, which doubles as a case for the device and spare adhesives. Small and quiet, Q1 is discreet and can be easily hidden beneath clothes. It also features medication reminders delivered through vibration, so you can make sure you get every dose on time without alerting everyone around you. We've been lucky enough to work with people with Parkinson's from day one. Our user testers have been instrumental in taking Q1 from a university project to what it is today.
I just felt as if I moved a lot freer. I was moving as if I didn't have Parkinson's.
Yes, I feel better. I'm standing more comfortably.
Yes, you are. Yeah, because you use it.
The walking is definitely better. The standing is better.
Yeah. Well, I've watched Celia walking there, and it is 10 times better than the way she was walking yesterday afternoon. But watching you walk there, you're back to the way you were walking last year, doing that.
How do you feel? Can I ask you if you felt any different from the point that we arrived?
Yes, I did feel different.
How? Can I ask you how you feel different?
I feel better already.
You feel better? Well, you don't look like it.
Lovely. So Lucy, I want to do is I'm going to preempt my own question. Yes, we made our due diligence available to other investment sources to help Lucy along the way. But I hope that you were all equally impressed with that video. Somebody said this is like Iron Man, you know, and it's totally like Iron Man. And if you know, if you weren't able to walk, and you can now walk, you do feel like Iron Man. Lucy, I'm going to just one quick question. I'm going to turn the keys over to Mike Wallace. So do you think you could bring your technology to Latin America if we can get you some more money?
Well, our biggest aim is to get to everywhere as soon as possible. So like what we want to do is get to UK and well, get the product absolutely right. So that's why we're all focused on test house right now. Make sure that it's safe. And then next homework for us is spreading out all over the world as soon as possible.
I'll take that as a yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so thank you so much, Lucy and Ricard. And Ricard, if you can hit that Q&A, looks like we have a question from Santiago. I'm going to turn the keys over to Mike, and we'll finish up more of the QA in the end. Mike Wallace, Miriam Kim, co-founders of Perfect Company. I'm not going to give them too much of an introduction, just to say you're looking, these are people that have been there, done that many times over 20 years. There they are. These are the best pros on how to do it. Our first VC investment, we're about to close on a $6 million US dollar investment in a company that, although started in the US, is scaling rapidly to Latin America and the United Kingdom. And with that, Mike, I'm just going to turn the keys over to you. Take the screen and have fun.
Thanks, Steve. Good morning, everybody. It's morning for me. I know it's different times everywhere else. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen first. 2 seconds here. Desktop, share. All right, there we go. So I'm going to try to keep this relatively short and to the point. Perfect Company's been around for almost 8 years at this point. We've been in the middle of a major pivot into the restaurant space with our technology and our platform. Let's see if I can get this working. There we go. So the restaurant industry right now is undergoing major disruption globally. And while this can be very challenging for a lot of businesses, it's also an incredible time of opportunity. And what's happening is these paradigms of contactless service and ghost kitchens and really reshaping and rethinking operations is happening worldwide right now. And so it's an incredible time with a lot of opportunity. And so I'm going to talk today about how our platform is really sort of positioned perfectly to take advantage of what's happening. So our platform, first let's talk about the company. The company really is unique because we can go all the way from hardware to enterprise software. So we have significant IP. We have a lot of patents in what we do, and we've been at this for some time in both the consumer and restaurant space. Our platform for restaurants, it really has 3 major sections. The pickup cabinet, which I'm going to primarily focus on today, is for contactless food transfer for pickup or for delivery or anything from a restaurant to going outside. Then we have AIM, which is automated ingredient management. And this actually manages food prep inside a restaurant. It simplifies operations for the crew, which is a theme we're seeing now, is that restaurants are downsizing, especially large QSR brands. They're downsizing it and running and really changing the way they think. Dining rooms are going away and they're rethinking their entire operation. It's very pickup and delivery centric. And then the last is recipe execution, which really uses our core technology, which is a smart scale, to help portion and execute recipes inside of restaurants. What's going on right now over the last, I'd say, 6 months, we've seen a huge acceleration in the pickup cabinet and so this is our go fast opportunity right now. I'd say in the next 18 to 24 months, we have enormous opportunity. And so I'm gonna focus on that. Also, our go-to-market strategy. What we have done is a little bit different. Instead of a lot of startups will try to find a small chain or a small company and start selling and grow. We have gone just the opposite. So we've actually partnered with the largest equipment manufacturers in the world for restaurants. So Middleby is the largest food service equipment manufacturer in the world. They own about 1/3 of all of that business globally. And they're a direct partner. We're also a partner with Well-Built, which is the 2nd largest food service equipment manufacturer in the world. And then one of our other key partners is Elo, who actually invented the touchscreen 40 years ago and really has a commanding presence in the commercial space for touch screen displays, whether it's the kiosks you use to order in restaurants or signage you see or anything else going around. And so these huge, large players are really bringing us into these potential, enormous customers. Yum being one of our key customers. Yum is the largest QSR, quick service restaurant operator in the world with over 50,000 restaurants globally. And then obviously Dunkin', Reef, Grubhub, all of these huge companies we're getting to work with now because Middleby and Well-Built and others are using their sales force to bring us there. Just to speak about Yum briefly, to show you the global context of what we're doing. 50,000 restaurants worldwide, but Latin America, 3,000, APAC, 10,000, Europe, and so forth. So this is a global opportunity right now, is what we're seeing, and these brands think about it this way as well. I mean, it's just enormous. So I'm going to dive really quickly, I think, into the pickup cabinets, which has been one of our. It's the thing sort of taken over over the last 6 months. And so the pickup cabinet has been an 18-month partnership with Middleby. We started working with them 18 months ago. They saw this as an opportunity in the marketplace and partnered with us. So we actually implemented and own the entire software stack, from the software running inside the cabinet all the way up to the cloud that integrates with all the POS players, delivery players, digital ordering systems for the large QSR restaurant chains. Where you basically place an order digitally. That order is received by the kitchen. The driver or the customer then receives a QR code for picking up that order. The kitchen places the order into the cabinet. It's assigned a space. The driver or the customer walks into the restaurant or walks up to the restaurant and scans the QR code. The door opens and they retrieve their food. And this is really important. Because let me go to the next slide. What we're seeing is this huge shift pre and post COVID in where the channels are for revenue in these restaurants, because dine-in has essentially been shut down, especially in QSRs. Nobody's really going in to eat inside a McDonald's or a Taco Bell or a Pizza Hut or anywhere else. And so what's happened is there's been this huge increase in to-go, and then delivery has doubled. And so what's happened here is that there are now all these bags that have to be handled for delivery drivers to sort through, pick up and grab and leave. And there have to be employees now sort of managing that whole station and making sure orders happen. And one of the things we learned just recently talking to KFC is they have 10% loss in their delivery and pickup orders due to theft or just drivers picking up the wrong bag. That equates to almost $20,000 in lost revenue a year per store, which is significant. So this is just I didn't have enough room to put everything on the screen of the business that's going on, but there's a lot of interesting verticals that have begun to appear. And I'm going to speak to them really quickly. So obviously QSR, huge opportunity. We're basically testing with every major QSR chain right now. Hospitals and universities have become a fast runner for us. We're about to install our very first full integrated installation into Boston College. And then we expect to go and push this into lots of other colleges. And what they're doing is removing all the chairs and tables from their cafeterias, and they're putting in rows of pickup cabinets. The students place their orders digitally. They walk in, they scan, they pick up their food, and they leave. And this is one of the things that helps colleges stay in business and keep students coming to campus. We've also have our first few customers in convention center space, McCormick Place in Chicago. We're going to be is there, and then also we're integrating right now with Delta and Sodexo for a lot of their venues. An interesting space right now is Reef. So Reef is a huge player in the ghost kitchen space, and Reef is actually building trailers that are completely enclosed. There are no windows. The only way you get product out of the trailers is through a pickup cabinet, our pickup cabinet that's integrated into the trailer. The Reef is a SoftBank funded company. I think the first 150 to 200 trailers are being built this year, and then that's supposed to expand up to 2,000 annually after that. Food courts, we've got our first installation of 32 locker wall in the AT&T World Headquarters in Dallas. That's installed. We're talking with all kinds of theme parks, grocery stores, and another one that just popped on the radar is hospitality. So we're now working with Hilton. We're going to be putting our first test cabinets into Hilton hotels around the country. So this, what you can see here is this is just a huge opportunity and change in the way everybody does business based on COVID. So let's see, getting into, this is just sort of restates the opportunity here, which is global. And what's interesting is our partner, Middleby. I think what makes this such a huge opportunity is that they are truly a global company. They have 70 factories worldwide. They have sales offices in every continent. We've installed pickup cabinet demonstrations now in most of those offices. And we see enormous opportunity, particularly in Latin America. What's interesting about Latin America, by the way, is that delivery is actually profitable. It's one of the few places where third-party delivery is booming and profitable, which makes it a great place for us. And then finally, Oxbridge is leading our VC, our round, our investment, $7 million investment. Which we're really excited about. And this is really we have to scale to support all these integrations and deployments globally to support Middleby sales. So engineering, design, localization for all of just these different countries and brands and languages. We're going to establish a Latin American technology hub in Chile, and we're very excited about that. So that is pretty much my entire presentation. I tried to keep it short.
No worries, Mike. Fantastic. Hey, I want to make it a little bit more real. So if a quick service restaurant chain, QSR, like a McDonald's or Taco Bell, so $20,000 per store, what does that mean to Taco Bell annually? I mean, what is Perfect Company saving them annually?
$20,000 per store. Well, there's
quick math.
There are 7,000 Taco Bells, right? Okay, so what is that? $140 million.
140 million. So that's why you're able to attract their attention, because when you just move a small thing times thousands of stores, it equates to hundreds of millions of savings, right? So we're seeing this enterprising of everything, right? Is there anybody else in your space that's doing this? Are you the first mover? Do you have this first mover advantage?
Well, there's one other company that's a primary competitor in this space, but they're from outside the food service business, right? And they're called Apex. They're based here in the U.S. They're really more industrial cabinets for factories, and but they've moved into the space as well. The disadvantage they have is, Middleby sells to every major restaurant chain, well, every restaurant basically in the world, and has been for some time. If there's a kitchen, there's Middleby equipment in it, and they already have a relationship. And then
so you have the channel partners. You have the channel partners.
All the channel partners, right? And then the scale as well. Middleby's coming in with a price of these cabinets that's half of what the Apex price is as well.
Can you talk about the Latin America story, Mike? How did you, Corfo is involved in this investment, right. Genesis Ventures. How did you position yourself to be attractive to them in Latin America? I want anybody that's a founder to listen to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, what was interesting, first off, we went and did a bunch of research on Latin America and spoke with a lot of the salespeople that work for Middleby. Middleby sells $1 billion of equipment every year into Latin America and has 2 major offices there. And it was remarkable to us, the digitalization that's happening there, the explosion of cell phone use and delivery everywhere, and delivery being profitable. That was fantastic. And I'll be honest, I also like the cost of software development in Chile. It's much less expensive. The engineers are top notch, and it's an opportunity for us to really develop a technology hub in that part of the country and really focus on that part of the world.
Love that. So what are the big, the global quick service restaurant chains? Which ones will you be working with down in Latin America? Because I think that's probably important, right?
Yeah. So we have multiple initiatives inside of Taco Bell. So Taco Bell is one of the first that'll be going to Latin America. Pizza Hut is another one. We've delivered a custom cabinet for Pizza Hut. One of the first places they want to test is Latin America, and then obviously KFC. So Yum being our primary engagement right now, just because they're the biggest player in this space. They're very quickly going to bring us into Latin America. In fact, one of our other projects, AIM with Taco Bell, is going to be going into Latin America early next year.
Oh, that's great. And also from the Oxbridge Capital Partners standpoint and our UK remit, what's your UK story?
Well, UK story is fascinating. They're actually, what we learned pre-COVID is that delivery and pickup were actually more established in Europe than they were in the US. And so before COVID, a lot of the customers we were working with were actually going to test in the UK and European markets first, just because of that, and Latin America, by the way. And it's only COVID that's really sort of accelerated the US and made that market come in line with everyone else. So, we've been talking with Deliveroo about integrating with them everywhere, because their big focus now is pickup, is order and pickup, and not as much delivery. They still do that as well. And then, all the other major players, the Grubhubs, the Uber Eats, everybody that plays global is there. And obviously all the chains we're working with have a presence in the UK. For instance, and Middleby has large offices in the UK and other parts of Europe, and we're installed there in demonstration. I think our first AIM country outside of the US and Canada is the UK. It's already started, in fact. Yeah, exactly.
We've been doing it for like 3 months.
Yeah, good point.
Great points. That's such exciting stuff, and it gives you a sense. We're looking at a global marketplace, and your business is one that scales to the globe, and we're always looking for those opportunities that have a global story. And then, of course, you must be successful regionally, like Lucy's trying to do with her platform in the United Kingdom. Last question I've got, it has to do with being able to kind of cross-pollinate between some of our investments. Somebody like Charco Neurotech, which is, they have manufacturing risks and trying to, do deals with manufacturers and all of that. And is this something that you and Miriam be willing to help somebody like a Lucy, just in terms of what to look out for? I know you've shipped millions of units, okay, in your past, and you've seen all the good, the bad, and the ugly, and working with manufacturers overseas and all of that. And is that something that you would be willing to do to help some of our folks that are trying to launch similar type of businesses that dealing with such a supply chain as this?
Oh, absolutely. As you know, even before this company, I was in the toy and consumer electronics business for years.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
And shipped millions of products. So one of our core competencies is developing for mass production and working with factories and how to source and control all of that. So absolutely, be very happy to talk about that.
Hopefully Lucy's listening.
No, absolutely. I was actually saying that would be wonderful for us.
Excellent. So, hey, Guillermo, I'm turning the keys back over to you and we'll let you wrap up.
And thank you so much for that. I really appreciate all the participation, all the quite amazing speakers we got for today. And as you know, all great stories come to an end. This is the 5th session we had in this quite interesting journey. We started out with institutions in session number 1. We had the general context of LATAM. We analyzed a bit the big markets, the tendencies, the patterns, and today we're closing with real founders, a real due diligence process. So it's quite interesting to get this, the gist of what's happening in the mind of a VC, in the mind of a founder. So I'm pretty sure this session was of value for all the audience today. So I wanted to thank you all. If you would like to have the recordings, the 5 recordings, the PowerPoints and so forth, send us an email, please, to cba@cjbs.net. Everything is going to be shared. That's the purpose of this kind of sessions, is to share knowledge of value to you to use it in your practical day. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. And of course, stay tuned because over LinkedIn, we're going to be publishing new webinars, new conversations. And if you have a request, please also let us know, because we would like to start coordinating different challenges, sharing different information. Thank you, Cambridge, for this opportunity too. Remember, go to the Executive Education website to get more information if you would like to update your knowledge. Thank you so much all, and see you soon.
Thank you.